The rain hammered against the cracked window of the small apartment in Seoul's Itaewon district, each drop a reminder of how far Amani was from home. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass, watching the neon signs bleed their colors across wet pavement below. 20 years old, alone in a country where she barely spoke the language, working 3 jobs just to send money back to her family in Kenya. This wasn't the life she'd imagined when she'd won that student visa lottery. The door burst open behind her, and Amani spun around, heart racing.
Please,
Her roommate Jaiwon stood there, eyes wide with panic, gripping the doorframe. "Hide, now." Jaiwon's English was fractured but urgent. "What? Why?" "Men coming, bad men. They think I took something. Please, Amani, just hide." Before Amani could respond, heavy footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Jaiwon shoved her toward the bedroom, but it was too late. 3 men in dark suits pushed through the door, and behind them walked someone who made Amani's breath catch in her throat. He couldn't have been more than 22, but he carried himself like someone who'd seen lifetimes. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that seemed to calculate 1,000 things at once, black hair pushed back from his forehead. His suit probably cost more than 6 months of Amani's rent. He surveyed the cramped apartment with the detached interest of someone inspecting an insect. "Kimappa, please, I didn't." Jaiwon dropped to her knees, and Amani felt her stomach turn. The young man, Kim, raised one hand, silencing her. His gaze swept the room and landed on Amani. For a moment, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, interest. It vanished as quickly as it appeared. "Who's this?" His English was perfect, barely accented. "My roommate. She has nothing to do with this, please." Kim stepped closer to Amani, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and sharp. She refused to look away, even as her knees trembled. She'd faced down poverty, discrimination, and loneliness in this city. She wouldn't cower now. "You're not afraid," he observed, tilting his head slightly. "I don't know what's happening. Should I be?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Most people are afraid of me." "I'm not most people." One of his men cleared his throat impatiently, speaking rapid Korean. Kim replied without breaking eye contact with Amani, then finally turned to Jaiwon. "You stole from the wrong people," he said simply. "The debt is 50 million won. You have 3 days." Jaiwon began sobbing. "I don't have that kind of money. I was desperate. My mother is sick." "Everyone has a story." Kim's voice was flat, emotionless. He turned to leave, then paused. "The African girl, what's your name?" "Amani." She lifted her chin. "And I'm Kenyan specifically." "Amani." He repeated it like he was tasting the syllables. "It means wishes in Swahili, doesn't it?" Her eyes widened slightly. "You know Swahili." "I know many things." He pulled out a card, pressing it into her palm. His fingers were warm against her cold skin. "When your roommate runs, and she will run, call me. You'll need a new place to stay." "I don't need anything from you." "You will." He walked to the door, then looked back one last time. 3 days, Jaiwon." The moment they left, Jaiwon collapsed in tears. Amani stood frozen, the business card burning in her hand like a brand. Jaiwon disappeared that same night, taking Amani's savings with her. Amani discovered the theft at 6 a.m. when she woke for her shift at the convenience store. The small lockbox under her bed, opened, empty. 3 months of wages, everyone she'd scraped together to send home for her sister's school fees. Gone. She sat on the floor of the empty apartment, the weight of it crushing her chest. No money for rent, no way to contact her family, no roommate to split costs. The landlord would be here in 5 days, and Amani had nothing. The card sat on her bedside table, crisp white with embossed black lettering. Just a phone number, no name. Pride was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. Her hands shook as she dialed. He answered on the second ring. "I was wondering how long it would take." Kim's voice was smooth, unsurprised. "She took everything." "I know, I'm outside." Amani rushed to the window. A black Mercedes sat idling on the street below, impossible to miss in this neighborhood of rust buckets and delivery scooters. She could see him in the back seat, phone to his ear, looking up at her window. How did you? I've been waiting since midnight. Come down, Amani. We need to talk. Every instinct screamed at her to hang up, to find another way. But what other way was there? She grabbed her jacket and headed downstairs, each step feeling like a descent into something she couldn't return from. The car door opened before she reached it. Kim sat inside, impossibly composed for 6 a.m., looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. He gestured to the seat beside him. I don't get in cars with dangerous men, Amani said. You already called me. That was the hard part. Getting in the car is easy. He leaned forward slightly. I'm not going to hurt you, Amani. I'm going to offer you a deal. What kind of deal? Get in and I'll explain. Stay out here and I'll drive away. You'll figure something out, I'm sure. Resourceful girl like you. His eyes glittered with challenge. But winter in Seoul is harsh when you're homeless. Amani climbed in. The interior smelled like leather and that cologne of his. The door closed with a heavy, final sound. Kim pressed a button, and a privacy screen rose between them and the driver. I need someone I can trust, he began without preamble. Someone who isn't connected to my world, who doesn't have loyalties to the families, who can move through certain spaces without raising suspicion. You need a spy. I need a ghost. He turned to face her fully. You're perfect. Foreign student visa, no criminal record, works multiple jobs in different districts. You're practically invisible already. And if I say no? Then I'll give you 50 million won for your trouble and drop you wherever you'd like. But you'll spend your life wondering what could have been. He paused. Or you can say yes, work for me for 1 year, and I'll pay you 500 million won. Enough to bring your entire family here, to finish your education, to start whatever life you want. Amani's mouth went dry. 500 million won. That was almost $500,000. That was her mother retiring. Her sister finishing university, her brothers starting businesses. That was freedom. What would I have to do? Kim smiled then, really smiled, and it transformed his face from coldly handsome to devastating. Survive. Learn, become someone new. Think of it as an education money can't buy. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now. He extended his hand. 1 year, Amani. Give me 1 year and I'll give you everything you've ever wished for. She stared at his hand, at the expensive watch glinting on his wrist, at the barely visible scars on his knuckles that told stories of violence she could only imagine. This was a devil's bargain. This was dangerous and stupid, and probably illegal in a dozen different ways. She shook his hand. 1 year, she agreed. His grip was firm, warm. There's one more thing. Of course there is. We'll have to pretend to be engaged. Amani tried to pull her hand back, but he held firm, that smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Excuse me. I need a cover. My family is pressuring me to settle down to prove I'm stable. A foreign girlfriend throws them off balance, gives me breathing room. We'll attend some events together, be seen in public. Nothing more. You want me to be your fake fiancé while working as your spy. When you put it like that, it sounds ridiculous. He finally released her hand. But yes. Amani laughed. She couldn't help it. The absurdity of the past 12 hours, the exhaustion, the fear, it all bubbled up into slightly hysterical laughter. Kim watched her with an expression somewhere between amusement and concern. This is insane, she gasped. Completely. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone, new, expensive. But you're still going to say yes, aren't you? She took the phone. Their fingers brushed, and that strange electricity sparked again. Kim felt it too. She could tell by the way his eyes darkened slightly. 1 year, Amani repeated, and then. Then I'll marry you for real. The words came out casual, almost joking, but something in his gaze was deadly serious. When I'm rich enough that my family can't touch us, when I've built my own empire separate from theirs, when I can protect you from everything that comes with my name, I'll marry you properly. Amani stared at him, searching for the punchline. You're joking. I never joke about promises. Kim leaned back against the leather seat, his expression unreadable. Call it insurance. Give me 1 year of loyalty and I'll give you a lifetime of protection. You'll need it once you step into my world. You don't even know me. I know enough. He gestured to the driver, and the car began to move. I know you didn't flinch when 3 armed men entered your apartment. I know you stood between Jaiwon and danger even though she wasn't worth it. I know you've survived alone in a foreign country for 2 years with nothing but determination. He paused. And I know you're the first person in a very long time who's looked at me and seen a man instead of a monster. The vulnerability in those last words caught her off guard. For just a moment, the calculating Mafia boss disappeared, and she saw someone her own age, young, tired, trapped in a life he might not have chosen. Where are we going? She asked quietly. Home, your new home anyway. You'll stay in one of my properties, safer that way. The car wound through Seoul's streets as dawn broke over the city, painting everything in shades of gold and pink. They left behind the cramped neighborhoods of Itaewon and entered areas Amani had only seen in dramas, tree-lined streets, massive gates, houses that could swallow her entire apartment building. The car stopped in front of a modern 3-story home, all clean lines and massive windows. Amani's entire body tensed. This is too much. It's necessary. My people need to believe we're really together. You can't live in a closet if you're supposed to be my fiancée. Kim got out, then offered his hand to help her. Besides, you'll need space for your new wardrobe. My what? He was already walking toward the entrance, typing on his phone. Someone will come by this afternoon with clothes. We have a charity gala tomorrow night, first public appearance. Tomorrow? Kim, I can't, I have work. He turned, and the look on his face stopped her mid-sentence. Amani, you don't work at convenience stores anymore. You work for me now. Everything else ends today. The finality of it hit her like a physical blow. This was real. She'd actually done this, sold a year of her life to a man she'd met 12 hours ago, agreed to play pretend in a world where pretending could get you killed. Kim must have seen the panic in her eyes because his expression softened. Hey! He stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. I know this is overwhelming, but I meant what I said. I'm not going to hurt you. You're under my protection now. That means something in my world. What exactly is your world, Kim? What am I getting into? Tomorrow, he promised. I'll explain everything tomorrow. Today you rest. Settle in. There's food in the kitchen and the housekeeper will be by around noon. For now, just breathe. He was right. She could barely process anything else. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her exhausted and hollow. Kim guided her inside, through rooms that seemed designed for someone else's life, minimalist furniture, art on the walls that probably cost more than cars, a kitchen with appliances she didn't know how to use. Your room is upstairs, second door on the left. Mine is at the end of the hall. He checked his watch. I have a meeting. I'll be back tonight. Don't leave the house without calling me first. Am I a prisoner? You're an investment I'd prefer to keep alive. He said it matter-of-factly, like it was obvious. My enemies would love to know I have a weakness. Until tomorrow night, until we make our relationship public and you're under my official protection, you're vulnerable. Understand? Amani nodded, too tired to argue. Kim hesitated at the door, hand on the frame. Amani, thank you for saying yes. Then he was gone, and she was alone in a house bigger than anywhere she'd ever lived, wearing yesterday's clothes, with a phone full of numbers she didn't recognize, and a future she couldn't begin to imagine. She found her way upstairs to the designated room and stopped in the doorway. The bedroom was larger than her entire previous apartment. Floor to ceiling, windows overlooked a private garden. The bed looked like something from a hotel. There was an ensuite bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. Amani sat on the edge of the bed and finally let herself cry, for the life she'd left behind, for the family she hadn't called in days, for the terrifying leap she'd just taken. But underneath the fear was something else, something that felt dangerously like hope. The gala was in a hotel that made Amani feel like she'd stepped into a different dimension. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors. Women in gowns that cost more than most people's annual salaries glided past on the arms of men in custom suits. Champagne flowed like water, and Amani stood in the middle of it all, wearing a midnight blue dress that the stylist had assured her was understated elegance, feeling like an imposter. Kim appeared at her elbow, devastating in a black tuxedo. He'd barely been home since yesterday, conducting mysterious business that he still hadn't fully explained. But now he looked at her with an appreciation that seemed genuine. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. "I look terrified." "That too," he offered his arm. "But they don't need to know that. Rule one of my world, never let them see you bleed, metaphorically or otherwise." "Comforting." His lips quirked. "I'm about to introduce you to some very dangerous people. They're going to judge everything about you, your clothes, your posture, your accent, how you hold your champagne glass. They're going to wonder why someone like me is with someone like you." "Someone like me," Amani repeated, the words stinging. "Someone real?" Kim stopped walking, turning to face her fully. "Someone who didn't grow up in this world of performance and poison. That's going to make you either fascinating or suspicious, probably both." "Which do you want me to be?" "Yourself, but the version of yourself who isn't afraid of anyone in this room." He touched her chin gently, tilting her face up. "You survived moving to a foreign country alone. You learned a new language, worked 3 jobs, sent money home to support your family. These people," he gestured dismissively at the glittering crowd, "they've never worked a day in their lives. They inherited their power. You earned your strength, remember that." Something warm bloomed in Amani's chest. She straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin. "Okay, let's do this." Kim's smile was proud. There she is. They entered the ballroom like they owned it. Kim kept his hand on the small of her back, possessive and protective. Heads turned immediately. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Amani felt the weight of hundreds of eyes assessing her, calculating her worth, trying to understand what she was doing on Kim's arm. "That's Congressman Park," Kim murmured, nodding toward an older man holding court in the corner. "Completely corrupt, takes bribes from everyone. Next to him is his wife, who's having an affair with the man in the blue tie. That's Chairman Cho, runs the biggest construction company in Seoul. The woman in red is—" "Let me guess," Amani interrupted, "also having an affair." "Actually, she's a corporate assassin. Not literally, but close. Destroys companies through hostile takeovers. Brilliant and ruthless. Your world is exhausting. You have no idea." They made their way through the crowd, Kim introducing her to a dizzying array of politicians, business leaders, and people whose exact occupations seemed deliberately vague. Amani shook hands, smiled politely, and tried to remember everything. Who was allied with whom? Who hated whom? The subtle power dynamics that played out in every gesture and word. Then she saw him, an older man, maybe 50, with Kim's eyes and a presence that made everyone else in the room seem diminished. He was surrounded by men in expensive suits, but when his gaze landed on Kim, the entire group fell silent. Kim's hand tightened on Amani's back. "My father," he said softly. "This is going to be interesting." Kim's father, she still didn't know his first name, approached with the casual confidence of someone who'd never been told no. Up close, the resemblance was striking. Same sharp features, same calculating intelligence in the eyes. But where Kim's gaze sometimes softened, his father's was flat and cold as stone. "So," the older Kim said in Korean, barely glancing at Amani, "this is your distraction." Kim responded in Korean, his tone respectful but firm. Amani caught her own name and something that might have been serious or important. His father laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. "English," Kim said quietly. "It's rude to exclude my fiancé." Fiancé. The word hung in the air like a bomb. His father's eyes finally focused on Amani, really looking at her for the first time. "Fiancé," he switched to English, heavily accented but clear. "You're marrying this African girl." The slur was intentional, designed to wound. Amani felt Kim tense beside her, but she spoke before he could. "Kenyan," she corrected calmly, meeting the older man's gaze without flinching. And yes, apparently I am. Though I should warn you, I'm still getting used to the idea myself. Surprise flickered across his father's face. He clearly wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone he'd already decided wasn't worth his time. You have no idea what you're getting into, he said, but there was a grudging respect in his tone now. Then I suppose I'll learn. Amani smiled sweetly. I'm very good at learning. Kim's father studied her for a long moment, then turned back to his son. More rapid Korean, harsh and commanding. Kim's jaw tightened, but he maintained his composure. Finally, his father walked away without another word. What did he say? Amani asked. That you'll be dead within a month. Kim's voice was tight with controlled rage. That this is a ridiculous rebellion that will end badly for both of us. That I'm a fool. Is he right? Kim looked at her then, and something fierce and protective flashed in his eyes. No, he's going to learn that I'm not the son he thinks I am anymore, and you're going to be the reason why. Before Amani could respond, a gunshot shattered the crystal air of the ballroom.